Today, we're in Cuyamaca Rancho State Park on Highway 79, right outside of San Diego. And we're going to be looking for a crash site and monument for a military airplane crash that happened 100 years ago and led to the largest peacetime search and rescue operation in military history. We're at the Sweetwater parking area at Cuyamaca Rancho State Park, and that's Highway 79 behind me. Now, to get to the airplane crash site, I believe we have to cross over the highway, kind of head to the south, go around the mountain a little bit, and then start heading up in the mountains. It's about an 800-foot elevation gain, the entire hike, about 2 miles there, 2.5 miles there, and then 2.5 miles back. So hopefully we can find the trail. I've never been on this hike before, and from what I've read, that it's not the most well-marked trail, but we'll see what we can do. And so let's start heading away, and we'll talk about the crash itself on the way there. So it looks like rather than crossing over the highway, we're going to be going under the highway. And there's Highway 79 above us. Here comes a car. And here is the Sweetwater River. And Lord only knows where the trail is. Ugh, this water's pretty stagnant. All right, so it looks like we're going the right way. Monument Trail is the trail we need to get to the crash site. Springtime at Cuyamaca Rancho State Park is a great time to go on a hike. I mean, look at all these flowers. So far, I mean, we're only a little bit into the trail, but so far, just tons and tons of flowers everywhere. So there's Highway 79 there. We're still walking parallel to it. We haven't made it to the actual monument trail yet. It's about a little bit more than a half mile from the parking lot. And so far the trail has been relatively flat, but very few shady spots. It is pretty exposed, and it is a little warm today. Of course, once I say the trail has been relatively flat so far, we start gaining a lot of elevation. All right, so it looks like we've made it to a fork in the road. And as the great Yogi Berra once said, if you come to a fork in the road, take it. And it looks like, here we go, the Monument Trail. This is where we want to go. 1.7 miles to the airplane monument. So let's talk about the airplane crash itself as we head to the monument. On the morning of December 7th, 1922, a twin-seat U.S. Army Air Service de Havilland DH-4B model biplane left Rockwell Field, an airfield at Coronado's North Island, across the bay from San Diego. Flying the plane was 26-year-old pilot, First Lieutenant Charles F. Weber. Sitting in the passenger seat was 55-year-old decorated World War I veteran, Colonel Francis C. Marshall. Marshall was heading to Tucson, then Fort Huachaca, Arizona, to inspect troops. Knowing how important Marshall was, Rockwell Field's commander took every precaution to ensure a safe flight, and there was probably no better pilot for the mission than Lieutenant Charles Weber, who had helped map air routes throughout the Southwest. At this time, most military aircraft didn't have radios, and the technology was still in its infancy. Weber was supposed to call or telegraph back to Rockwell Field once they reached Fort Yuma, where the plane was to refuel. When Weber had failed to report by the following day, telegrams were sent to every airfield along the plane's route to locate it. When the telegrams came back negative, a search and rescue effort was immediately organized. Nearly all of the Army's air resources in the area took part in the search for the missing plane, and even the Navy joined in the search. Between December 12th and 19th alone, 40 military and 2 civilian aircraft with almost 100 pilots and observers would fly along the 1,500-mile U.S.-Mexico border region between San Diego, California and El Paso, Texas, searching for the missing airplane. The search even went into Mexico. In addition to the air effort, the search took place on the ground with Indian runners from local reservations, county sheriffs, the Arizona National Guard, and 300 mounted and foot soldiers, including elements of the famed Buffalo Soldiers of the 10th Cavalry and 25th Infantry Regiments. Starting to get a little bit of a view. There's the parking lot where we started. Unfortunately, a number of issues complicated the search, including a local newspaper, the San Diego Union, running unsubstantiated reports of aircraft sightings all over the Southwest, which then directed search efforts far from the crash site. By February 1923, the military had all but given up hope of finding the missing plane. Secretary of War John Weeks went as far as to say that the disappearance of Colonel Marshall and Lieutenant Weber will remain one of the unsolved mysteries of aviation history. The mountain sticking up in the background is Stonewall Peak, which is a really popular and fun hike in Cuyamaca Rancho State Park. There's usually tons of people on it, as opposed to this trail where we haven't seen a single other person yet. On May 4th, 1923, a local rancher named George McCain was riding horseback through the area and came across the crash and 2 piles of charred bones. McCain also noticed 2 tall pine trees about 200 yards from the crash site that had their tops broken off. The military made it to the site and were able to identify Lieutenant Weber and Colonel Marshall through various items found at the site, including Colonel Marshall's West Point class ring. There aren't a whole lot of shady spots on this trail, but when you find one, you got to take advantage of it. On May 23, 1923, a number of officers and civilian workers from Rockwell Field returned to the site and built a monument to the 2 officers who lost their lives in the crash. Built into the monument are a number of pieces of the plane, including the plane's engine. So according to Google Maps, we should almost be at the monument. We haven't seen it yet, but it should be right around here. Now on alltrails.com, this hike is listed as moderate, and that's probably about right. Ever since we got on the monument trail, it's been a steady uphill climb. It hasn't been too steep at any parts, but it has been steady. And despite going uphill almost the entire way, the views haven't been really that great. There's been an occasion where we've had a good view, like when we saw Stonewall Peak earlier, but for the most part, we're surrounded by brush, which really obstructs any views. For the monument itself, I didn't mention this earlier because I know I would have gotten some pushback on even doing this hike, but I did read online that the monument may be inhabited by a large population of bees, so we'll have to be on the lookout for bees when we get up there. But let's see if we can find the monument. We didn't run into any other people on the hike, but we did see quite a few wild turkeys, including some incredibly cute chicks. So we've come to a trail marker, and this is actually the first trail marker that we've come across since we joined the monument trail. And according to this, 0.2 of a mile to the monument. The mountain off in the distance with the antennas on the top of it, I believe that's Cuyamaca Peak, which is the second tallest mountain in San Diego County. So we've come to some more trail markers. Let's see what we have here. To Airplane Monument. So it looks like this is our path. Here's another good view of Cuyamaca Peak. And to our right is Stonewall Peak. Well, here's our first sight of the Airplane Monument. And there is the engine from the airplane. So we made it to the monument. And that warning about the bees was pretty accurate. I mean, the engine is absolutely humming because it's filled with bees. So we're going to be a little careful, but let's take a closer look at it. The memorial was dedicated in May 1923, shortly after the crash was found. And then improvements were made in 1934 by the Civilian Conservation Corps, who also built the monument trail to get out here. And then again in 1968 by the State Park Service. This is the actual engine from the plane. And then along with the engine, this stone bench was set here. And the stone bench looks like it would be a nice place to take a break after the hike. But the number of bees around probably tells a different story. And here's the plaque on the front of the monument. In memory of Colonel F.C. Marshall and First Lieutenant C.L. Weber, who fell at this spot December 7th, 1922. In addition to the engine on the monument, we have some metal over here, which I believe is from the plane as well. And you can kind of see how it took so long to find this site. This is a decent hike, but it's really interesting to see this forgotten monument to some early aviation pioneers who lost their lives here. Now you can make the hike a loop, however we're just going to go back the way we came. If you decide to come out here yourself, just be on the lookout for bees when you get to the monument. There are a lot of them here. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.